Good morning, folks. Welcome to our daily devotional on this Wednesday morning. This morning, we're going to come to the conclusion of the psalm, and in doing so, we're going to be looking at verses 23 to 26. Now, it has to be said that on one level, this section of the psalm is difficult to understand, and yet, hopefully, as we go through it, we'll be able not only to understand what the psalmist says and why he says it, but also be able to relate to the sentiments he does express. Together with a number of commentators, I believe that this final section of this psalm shows tremendous, bold faith on the part of the psalmist. Look at verse 23. In this verse, he says, "Awake, why are you sleeping, O Lord? Rouse yourself." That's the sort of thing that he's saying here. Don't reject us forever. Now, don't forget all that has gone before in this psalm. Don't forget the very sad and sorry state God's people are in at this time, and how the enemy is getting the better of them and triumphing over them. Don't forget that the psalmist is distraught by this fact, and that part of the distress of the psalmist is bound up in the fact that God's people were not being unfaithful to God at this time. And yet, despite all their faithfulness, awful things were happening to them. So his reasoning is like this: this is not how it's meant to be, Lord. And so, Lord, you need to do something about this to put it right. Whenever the psalmist says, "Awake, why are you sleeping?" he doesn't, of course, for one minute believe that God actually sleeps. He knows the truth of Psalm 121, that the Lord neither slumbers nor sleeps. He's speaking here experientially, not theologically. It seems to us as if you're asleep, Lord, and haven't noticed what has been happening to us. So, waking up. Now, brethren, that may initially seem to be somewhat insolent, disrespectful language towards God. Waking up, God. But another way of thinking of it is that it's the language of tremendously bold faith. The psalmist is expecting God to do something. He wants to move God to action. There is a humble and yet a tremendously bold attitude here in the psalmist. A bold faith. It seems to the psalmist as though, verse 24, God is hiding his face and not taking any notice or thought of what his people are suffering. Why do you forget our affliction and oppression, he says. Now he believes, he knows this isn't the case. He knows God is not indifferent to the suffering and distress of his children. And so, if that is the case, as it surely is, then God must do something about this situation. And so again, in a spirit of bold faith, he says in verse 26, "Rise up," or "Arise, come to our help." And look what it is to which the psalmist appeals, brethren, here as he brings the psalm to an end. Redeem us, deliver us, for the sake of your steadfast love, your covenant love. It's the Hebrew word hesed, which points to the covenant love of God. He appeals here to the special loving relationship in which he himself and his people had with God. And knowing such a relationship existed, he felt he could speak to God as he has just done. And in faith, he expects God to hear and to respond. Brethren, it's an evidence of true faith and of strong faith to be so open with God and to speak to God in such terms, to open one's heart to God so honestly. There is no irreverence here, just a powerful pleading for God to act on behalf of his people. I believe we can learn much from this psalm about what it means to truly plead with God in prayer. Maybe it was such a spirit of boldness in prayer, initially among a few, but then among more and more, that preceded the outpouring of the Holy Spirit in Ireland in 1859, and which led to the mighty work of God in revival. And maybe it's time for such pleading in prayer again. Maybe we, like the psalmist, should be looking around us and seeing how distressed the church is and how feeble we seem in the face of our enemies. And maybe we should be saying to God, "Waken up, Lord. Arise. Do something." One thing's for sure, things won't change unless the Lord acts. And if we want the Lord to act, we need to plead with him to do so. May God bless these thoughts as we bring this psalm to a close today. Have a good day.